Well, this may be the end for the little Lexmoto LXS, and if it is the end, well, I couldn't let this bike go without going out for one last ride out. And for a moment I am going to sound like a broken record, because I have noticed a pattern of me riding a bike that I've not ridden in a while and saying, oh my gosh, I love this bike, I've missed this bike is amazing. And I may sound like a broken record. I did exactly this recently with my YZF, because I hadn't ridden Rafiki for quite a few weeks, because I was playing with the Christmas bike, the little Lexmoto Vixen. And I do the same thing with Lauren. I haven't ridden Lauren in weeks because she's got a battery problem. And I know when I get back on that bike, I'll be saying, oh my gosh, I've missed this bike, etc, etc. Yes, I know I sound like a broken record, but I'm about to do it again. I'm on the little Lexmoto LXS. Oh my gosh, I've missed this bike. This bike is brilliant, and it always catches me by surprise just how much you can chuck this bike about. It's interesting because it is slightly heavier than my YZF, but you can chuck it about so easily. It's so nimble. Once the bike's moving, you don't feel that weight. It's only really when you're moving the bike manually, putting it in the garage, that's when you feel the weight of this bike. But once the bike's moving, that weight, it's almost like it disappears, and it becomes this nimble little creature that you can quite literally chuck about the place and it will forgive you. I remember previously that I said, if my son doesn't start riding this bike soon, I'm going to ride it, and I'll take the bike out maybe once a month. And being completely honest, I'm not sure if I've taken this bike out since then. In fact, I think I did once, and that was for the final milkshake run, but that was the end of September. It's now middle of January, so it's been 3.5 months. I wish I'd stuck to what I said and taken this bike out more often, because in a moment this bike could be gone and I'm going to miss this bike. Ironically, I'm going to miss this bike more than my son will, because I've ridden it more than he has, which is the real irony of this bike. But I will miss this bike if it goes. And I say if, because although I think that the end is near for this bike, well, what do I mean when I say the end is near? Well, of course, it's not the end of the bike. The bike will live on. But it looks like it could be the end of my son's ownership of this bike. And the reason for that is because he's decided to try a cruiser instead. He loves this bike, don't get me wrong, but he wasn't really getting on with the ergonomics of this bike, the characteristics of this bike. He feels that it's too top heavy, which it looks like a sports bike. It's actually a sport tourer, and yes, they can be somewhat top heavy, whereas the bargain basement cruiser that he's trying at the moment, of course it's a cruiser, all your weight's low down, the bike's a lot lower down. You know, you could be 4 foot nothing and still flat foot something like that. Not that he is, ironically, he's 6 foot like me. But the characteristics of a cruiser is that all of your weight's low down. I've ridden that cruiser, like I say, and you never feel like you're going to drop it. You can take that cruiser around a corner, a tight corner, and lean it like a sports bike, and when the corner's done, the bike just stands back up like it was nothing. And I think for some riders you can end up on the wrong bike. And the reason why we don't know for sure if this is the end of his ownership of this bike is because he still loves this bike and he would like to ride this bike. But I think, and I may be wrong, I don't mind which way this goes. I'm just happy that my son's riding a bike. I think he's going to ride his cruiser, his bargain basement cruiser, and he's going to fall in love even more with the characteristics of a cruiser. He has gelled with that bike. He loves this bike, but he loves his cruiser. But when it comes to riding the two bikes, he struggled to gel with the characteristics of this bike, but he has immediately gelled with the cruiser that he's got. So he may ride that cruiser for a bit and then come back to this bike. But equally, he may just ride that cruiser and decide, this is it. This is the bike for me now, and part ways with his little LXS. And so I have to see this as potentially the end of his ownership of this bike.
And it would be a shame, a real shame, to see this bike go, because, well, he has become part of the fleet. But if it's time to let the bike go, it's time to let the bike go. And if the bike does go, well, I'm sure the new owner will be more than happy with it. I mean, it's still virtually a brand new bike. Yes, it's 1 year old, but there's barely a mark on it. I mean, needs a bit of a clean further on down here, but it's actually fared quite well since I cleaned this bike last. And you can still see, you know, you look at some of the rubber components and you can see just how new this bike still is. There's not a mark on it, there's no rust on it. The new owner, I've no doubt, would be really happy with the condition of this bike.
And not only is this bike only 1 year old and still in pristine condition, but it only has 157 miles on the clock from brand new. That may increase slightly, because of course I'm out on the bike today having fun. But I think even by the time I get the bike home today, that's only going to be on 170 maybe. So 170 miles from brand new. So what is actually going to happen now? Well, as I say, I think this is the end for this bike, but there is an if in there. So what I will be doing now is having a bit of fun, taking the bike home, tucking him away in the garage, and then waiting for my son to make a decision as to what he wants to do with the bike. So who knows? Although this may be the end, you may still see this bike again.